Last time, we discovered yet another problem with our metal order. The long sheets on the far west porch roof weren't long enough. It didn't take into account slope or overhang. We weren't sure if the supplier would own their mistake, but they did. Now we just have to wait for this replacement order, plus a few sheets for a new project we're starting now. 18 diameter, 7-inch deep. So we're gonna run up and put a board up here and then join in and leave a little gap for the airflow, because that is a vented soffit, and then pull out. And then we got these two posts here, have the beam that's being protected by that metal. We're gonna get the little bump out roof to protect that door. The same as last time, just premix high strength bags, couple bags, and should be good to go. Oh, what happened?
I landed in a weird way.
Oh, you hurt a leg?
This way.
Are you okay? Can you walk?
No.
You trip over the hose?
Yeah.
Sorry. Come here. Yeah. This one. Okay, we're all done with water for just a second. Daddy's gonna stir now. We don't want to put in too much water, remember? You can spray the ladder if you want. Want to come give me some water?
Please let me dunk me on the head.
Well, that's true.
Direct line of fire and all that.
Then you're gonna have to give me a little bit more water than that, hon. A little bit.
My band is wet.
Okay, I'll take over. Thank you for your help.
That looks about right.
Yeah. Okay, you wanna... Can you control it down? Hold it down for me. A little bit further forward. Right there. Can I use the hose again?
Shouldn't have said anything here.
I know. At this point, my hand is pretty close to healed. I'm going to take the stitches out myself pretty soon. I'm not interested in paying a couple $100s for a few seconds of scissor work and some peroxide. Weird, right? But it looks like something else has arrived just in time to take its place. My elbow has started just killing me, just a deep, dull throb with the occasional sharp spike being driven in, and I'm not sure if this is related to hanging off of the roof, or it's maybe because of how I've tried to protect the hand since then, but whatever it is, if I were writing my life as a script, this is the sort of thing that would happen next, just for the sake of consistency. Let me scrape that, and I think we'll be good to go. That should be enough. So obviously, this one's wide and maybe 7 inches. That one's more like 8 or 9 inches and not as wide, but they both should have plenty. What's that, buddy?
Hardening up right now.
Oh, well, let's let it sit. Can you go find Mama? Go for your bike ride? Now we just gotta let them sit, and then hopefully by tomorrow they'll be good enough that I can put a little sonotube on top of it, or build a little form, and then make a little concrete extension. Coming up to, I guess, the height of the deck is probably what I'm shooting for. Just has to be tall enough that it kind of gets you up out of where we eventually want the soil to be. What we have here, bacons, ground porks, pork chops. This is our 3 pigs. We have just got them back, and we're gonna find a spot to put all this. So getting ready to put up the actual posts, the concrete part first. That's gonna be today. And I made the forms instead of purchased the forms. We had a bunch of scraps, and it did take me a little bit, but let me show you what we're using. 2 strips of green and 2 strips of red that were about the same. And We decided to go with a slight rectangle on these two shapes, but they're identical because they were, you know, smooth rips on those two pieces. And we just sandwiched them in using these squares, made sure they were nice and tight as I went. I did 3 sides, and then, you know, we put that last side in and I just tightened it as much as I could, screwed through the side of the boards, and then brought that piece and screwed all the way around into the outside to fully flush those out and hold them in place. It came out pretty good. So we'll just be pouring into these. There is a bottom, you know, so whatever the top is, it can be slightly off level and I'm not going to really be bothered by it. The post isn't going to care either, but they're just going to sit on there nice and level. Those are pretty much flat. Took care of that yesterday, and I did add 2 little bits of rebar, 1 for each post, and that will sit up inside that column and just join the bases. It'll just join the bases to the top. So sonotube would be faster and easier, but they are kind of spendy. And I had all of this as scrap. So they're, you know, slightly different height. That one's deeper. That one is, you know, closer to the deck height by 2 inches. So different. This one's in. I did have to shim it just a hair versus that concrete. Should be fine. Come out just a peachy keen. This one's in, nice, perfect, ready to go. And we're starting the concrete pour. I don't know how much these are going to take. I didn't do the math, so we have extra bags, I'm pretty sure. And we did make sure that we used the, you know, standard 3-4-5 triangle to check that these things were square relative to the building and to each other. So fingers crossed that that means what it should mean.
We're going to try and work on the roof tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'd like to try and get that last triangle that we can do done.
Yeah. We don't have any help with the kids tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because I'll be up there with you.
I come cut it for you.
I'll get it.
You got it? You don't need?
Or you can get it, whatever.
Might be easier if I just...
It is easier.
That's plenty.
Huge amount.
Yeah, let's see.
On the other hand, it's going to be hard to
Yeah,
kind of just got to add like half a bag.
part of it. Sounds like an accurate situation. So stoopy. Nice part about concrete forms. Because it was all free except for the screws, and I should get that back mostly. You know what I mean, Vern? Hopefully the 4th bag is just right. It'd be distressing if it was just not right. He was very pleased with the meat that his uncle gave him the other day when they were over there.
Yeah.
Old, very, very old bacon, but the fat was mostly still intact. It was like on the border of crispy
Yeah.
instead of being actually crispy. That's how he wants it. Little heathen. He did say that he liked our bacon flavor better though.
Yeah.
He did tell his uncle that.
That was good bacon.
It was good
How was
bacon.
it taste? Didn't get that other than the hairs in it.
Yeah. So we did try some bacon from our pigs the other day, and the flavor is great. No complaints about the guinea hog from a flavor standpoint. These ones were a lot less fatty than the last ones, and I think it's just the time of year. You know, they weren't
Even the time of year,
they weren't cooped up. They were able to travel, you know, over about an acre worth of property. So just a tiny bit of extra with that 4 bag. All done. Tried not to scrape off too much. It'll be slightly below the peak as it settles, but pretty good. Should be great for our posts. Gonna frame that up really nice. But I should be able to start building on this concrete. And the first thing that I'm gonna have to do is to figure out where my post brackets are gonna go. This structure is gonna be centered relative to this door, and it's 8 feet wide at the outer. These two posts are supposed to be 6 foot apart, and I can either put that at 6 foot true or 6 foot on center. And I haven't made that decision 100% yet. The on center is going to be what's most accurate to how I did the layout, but I don't have to follow that when I put in my wood post if I don't want to. The first step is going to be to figure out square, and I've already done this once, to figure out where the paths were going to go, right? And then when I put the rods in, I made sure that was pretty much just slight off centered. So I should be able to put in a bolt and have it go in and be good to go. So let me show you how I figured it. So your first step is obviously going to be find your center of your door. I put a little mark on the metal right here to show the center of the door. Then 8 feet, so 4 foot this way, 4 foot this way, and that forms a very convenient triangle, and also gave me the ability to see, you know, how far out, you know, this was going to be. And then I came out here and I just dropped a line at 80 inches, which is kind of where I'm setting this post and beam at, is 80 inches from the wall. Keeps them relatively close to the deck, but gets them a little bit of clearance off of the deck, and there's a couple reasons why. So then I came and I made sure I was at 80 over here and made a mark. And now we have to intersect that line. So we're going to take the outside, is what I'm using for my triangle. I can easily enough use the inside, but I went ahead and used the outside. So I made sure that at the wall, the tape measure is where it's supposed to be. And this is not as accurate as when I did it originally. You know, I went over and made sure it was good, and then measured here, and then I drew a line here at that angle that intersects the line I already drew for 80 inches at 1/16. And the reason that it's 1/16 is because I can calculate a right triangle and know what that hypotenuse, the long line, is going to be. So we're coming over 84 inches because this post is going to be in 1 foot from the 8 feet. That's 84 inches, right? And then it's coming out 80 inches, and that happens to make a hypotenuse of 1/16. So it's put away now, but I did use a laser level to determine the relative heights of all 4 points, the 2 posts and then the wall. And it keeps thinking it's going to rain and then not, so we'll see, but I didn't want my laser level getting ruined. But let me just walk you through what I'm doing to determine the heights of these posts. So set up the laser level and found that the height here is exactly the same, like within a 30-second over there, which it should be. And out here, this one is up about 13/16, and that one is up about 1 3/16. And, you know, that's variance for the pad. It's a 1-inch rise to hold it up off of the concrete. That one's obviously a little bit higher. This one's a little bit shorter relative to the deck. And what that means is that we have to cut our posts different. Now, if you recall, I have 1, 2, 3 big posts left over that I cut wrong for that back porch, for the deck support for the roof. And I'm going to find a use for them obviously now. So that feels good. I'll just have this 1 post and I'll find a home for him too someday. So then to determine the height of the posts, all I had to do was, you know, knowing that they're that much off higher than the control point, which is the house. In order to get the right slope for the roof, all I had to do then was take that number and subtract the difference off of the height that I'm trying to shoot for. So we're doing a 3-on-12, and this is the tricky point for this whole structure because I wanted to make sure that there was code compliant height for your headroom as you step down out onto the lawn. You know, we'll probably have a little step spot there, and then it'll turn into lawn. And the posts are about, you know, on the outside of the post, it's about what you'd have for a tread, you know, or a step, if you will. And so what I'm trying to do here is make sure that at the start of the post, of the beam that goes across the post, I should say, I'm trying to make sure that we're starting at that point at 80 inches plus, because that's your code compliant headroom for a stair step. So this is what I'm talking about. You got your beam coming across, and right here at the start of it, that needs to be 80 inches plus when you consider, and I'm just using the deck height, even though you'd be partway step down already, making sure that we're above that. And, you know, I obviously would like it to be a 4-on-12 slope roof, because guidance is that anything 4-on-12 and above, you know, is safest from driving rains being pushed up under into the structure. That being said, I'm not going to worry myself too much about that. We're going to go ahead and get this installed at a 3-on-12, because that will give us essentially at the beam an 81 and 3/8, 5/8, 81 and 5/8 headroom space for that location. So that, you know, gives me a little bit of room to, you know, wiggle room if there's any error in my build or my design. Then, you know, I have some room for play. And so you take your post height difference off of that number, and that's the height of the posts. So they're going to be 80 and 13/16 and 80 and 7/16. To start a project like this, adding a lean-to to a structure, you'll need to do a little research first. On our new build, I am redlining this build. That is, it's a change to our plans that should not require an engineering design. I can do this because it's a small change and because I'm using the code to determine the support structure. You can reference the building code for a project like this to determine the size of boards needed for the rafters, their span, the size of the beam based on how far apart the support posts are, and even the depth and width of the concrete support piers should be. Now, the last thing to consider is I had to make sure that I drop down enough off of our soffit to allow for airflow to continue up into that space, but I can't drop down so much that I interfere with this door, which we did, you know, install it as a non-standard 8-foot high door. So I have a very small place, you know, that I can play with in the terms of where I'm setting my backer, my board. So this is going to be a very strong piece here. You've got your LP, and I'm going to screw through into the back plate, the top plate of that wall, and then it's going to be a 2x8. That's going to be our ledger to lock all that into. So what we have up here is just shy of 11 inches that I can come down, and we're using a 2x8 with a bevel cut on it, so about 7 inches on the 2x8. The rafters will be slightly higher because they're going to be 2x6. And then above that, I wanted some clearance, and you know, we also have to account for the metal roof. So basically I figured 2 inches of clearance, 1 inch for the metal, a 1/2 inch for the sheathing, and you know, you're taking off 3.5 inches, and you know, you've got just shy of 11. So that ledger board is going to fit, but just barely above that space. It should be basically like 1/2 inch plus is what I'm thinking. So if I do soffit this on the interior, you know, put a ceiling on the roof, it should still fit and not budge down into the door territory, but very close, which is fine. With the prescriptive code as our guide, we had our design and the limitations. Then in our case, we also wanted to use as little new material as possible. We had extra sheets of OSB for the roof deck in the form of a zip system, 2x material for the fascia and the rafters, the fasteners, the posts, the forms for the concrete, even the gutters, and some of the metal. We did have to buy the rest of the metal, the post caps and bases, and the concrete, so our project cost a little less than $200. Now let's check the heights and make sure we're good to get our hanger. It'll attach these posts to the beam. We want to make sure that they're level first though. So let's see here. Looks pretty good to me. I think we're good to go. Get our hangers on. Then we'll just have to make sure this beam gets cut to the right length. And away we go. So what do you think?
I think it's gonna look very handsome. I like those big posts.
Yes, nice, thick, heavy-duty posts, six inchers. Do you care how they're oriented? Like the grain or anything like that before I start securing them?
No, they look fine.
Okay. And then if you stand over here, see it centered on the door, everything looks good?
Yeah, I think so. I think the only thing I might do as far as orientation is you've got this spot here. I might turn it to where that's back here because you're almost never going to see this corner back here.
Yeah.
Where this is the first thing that you'll see.
Okay, take a look at the other post then. See if there's anything on that one you're concerned about.
No, that one looks really nice all the way around. So.
Okay. And obviously the bottom is going to be just above the height of the door.
Away from the post, please.
So you're going to have plenty of room down to your light, but what do you think about the placement of the light? Is that still good, hopefully?
Oh, I think so.
Okay, yeah, I think so too. Last question. Your roof is going to come out to about here.
Okay.
And so you could bring it out the extra foot and make it a 10-foot by 8-foot overhang. And that would bring you to like right here. Not this board, but the end of this board on the wall, almost to the end. And then on that side, it would bring you out slightly over that first window. Do you like 8 feet or 10?
8 feet. I don't want it out over the window. I don't care about this side, but I don't want it over the window of the dining room. That's
Okay.
not gonna look good.
All right, I will do.
Okay.
So I'm doing this a little out of order compared to what I have done in the past. I'm not securing these posts at the bottom to start, and I'm not attaching the top bracket to start. And there's a reason for my doing that. I want to see how it looks with the post on the top and the beam attached. And right now, in order to be able to do that, I've got to really give these some good bracing. So I'm using some very long, relative to the task at hand, 2x6, which I'm afterwards going to use on the rafters, 2 per post. One thing that's probably become pretty apparent by now is how important I think overhangs are to roofs. Every interruption to the continuous barrier of each exterior wall and ceiling should have multiple layers of protection from the elements. The best protection for windows and doors is to simply keep the majority of water off. I thought we were bracing these things. Proper flashing and caulking will keep the water out, but the more water that your window is exposed to, the greater the chance that that caulking or flashing is going to fail and water will find a way in, and the sooner that they're going to fail. We chose a plan right from the start that has 2-foot overhangs over every window. That's why we're putting on bracing. Technically, the first floor windows on the north and south walls are covered by the second floor overhang, and so you will get some water on there. Still, mostly everything is covered. 2 of the doors also had a great depth of cover right in the plan, and with this addition, the third exterior door will too. Good job. So we're going to cut the beam short of 8 feet. 8 feet is the ultimate length. And we're going to run the outside 2 rafters nailed into the side of the beam instead of hangered to the beam, because I feel like that's actually probably stronger, and it allows them to go all the way through. In order to save head height, we're attaching the rest of the hangers, the rafters, to the beam so they can't go through. I'm also going to take our fascia and I'm going to attach it to the outside of that outside 2x6. So we're going to be doing 2 7/8 off of the board for each side for a total of 5 3/4, because the fascia is 1 3/4 and the regular boards are 1 1/2. So that means we're at 90 1/4. All right, we're good. Make sure I didn't ruin this thing. And 90 1/4. Okay. So to make this easy, I'm going to mark half of what remains of this board. 90 1/4 goes to 45 1/8. And I'm just going to mark that on outsides. And then our posts are centered 6 feet apart. So if we just put our
Mom?
tape measure at 36 out to 6, then we can mark off that 6 foot, and it's going to be inside of the bracket, but it'll tell us where we're at, help us determine, you know, roughly where it is, and then we'll make sure that the interior is an even amount, but that'll give us most of the information we need.
How do you know that the distance on the outside of the boards is even? You just placed the measuring tape on the middle.
Yeah, so first let's verify. You're welcome to get a close-up on this. So about 1/8 or 3/16 right in between, off of 9. Now the other side.
Wow, you're good.
So all I did there was, I knew that it was 90 1/4, maybe 90 5/16, or 1 more than a quarter, like a 32nd more than a quarter. And then I just placed the halfway measure, 45 1/8, and then put 3 feet directly on that line. And then that way you'd have 3 feet this way and 3 feet this way on that mark at 0 and 6 feet. And so now you just center that to the posts and you're good to go. It should be vertically, like right above that nail hole, and then you'll know that you're centered. So I'm just gonna check crown really quick. And yep, this is the top. So got that. Can you reach? You see your mark? Thanks for watching. Next time, join us as we finish out this build from the rafters up to the roof metal and the gutters, and if you've been enjoying our videos, here's another one you might like. But before you go, make sure to click subscribe to stick with us on our family's journey here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest's Willamette Valley, as we're nearing the home stretch on our house build. 2024 will be a big year for us, as we'll be clearing more land to start our permaculture-inspired farm and finish other infrastructure, including a barn that we've designed ourselves, and I wish I could start today. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time.